All right, I just unboxed my Blackview DR750S 2-channel front and rear dash cam. Haven't really done anything yet, just kind of pulled it all out. I also got the PowerMagic Pro hardwire kit for parking mode for our 2016 Subaru Forester. So let's get into it. All right, so I've never done this before. First thing I'm going to do is kind of just map out where I want to put these cameras. So looks like it's gonna sit right about here. This is the little pry tool they gave me. You want the lens to be right in the center of the car. So right under here. Boop. So that's gonna somehow have to follow the wiring up behind the rear view mirror, underneath this headliner, behind this pillar. I think this is the A pillar. I'm gonna pop this guy off at some point, bring it down into the fuse box, which is in here, handy dandy little compartment. And then the rear camera wire is gonna follow all the way back. He's gonna help. Now for the rear camera wire, I want it to run cleanly under here and through one of these wire conduits so that the camera sits right up here. This one has more give than this one. This one's kind of stiff. So I'm thinking I'm gonna run it through this guy and underneath this plastic. This is the rear cable wire from the front camera to the rear camera. I'm pretty sure it's long enough, but I'm just gonna pull it apart and make sure I have enough cable to reach back. So if you have any concerns about the length of the wire going from the front to the back, I just kind of loosely threw it to the back of the car, and there's plenty of wire, so not a concern. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is install the power wiring for the PowerMagic Pro. I've never done this before, don't really have much electronics background, but from what I read online and looking at the manual, we'll figure it out. Because I need to route the power wiring up through here and over to the camera over there, I'm gonna pop off this A-pillar cover first. So all you gotta do is use the handy dandy tool. And just pull it off. Just like that. Pretty easy, just pops right off. Now there's a little nubbin in here that you gotta undo, which keeps the airbag from blowing up in your face. All right, it was a little tricky, but I got this guy off. So now we'll just keep popping this thing off. Just like that. That's your airbag curtain, so, you know, be careful with that. Don't mess with it too much. So I want the wiring to be attached to this existing wiring, if you can see it. Run down here and then up through the headliner. So you don't want that in the way of your airbag curtain, from what everyone else has been saying. So to pop off this side panel to get access to the fuse box, I just slid the little tool underneath here at the bottom, right under there, and then just, I felt it give, and then you just kind of work it out. Kind of hard to do with one hand, so you'll see the result. So yeah, pretty easy peasy. Here's the piece with the little connectors. Just kind of popped right off, and so down through this hole, we'll run the cables to the fuse box. So this is the fuse box in here. Everyone's been saying to use number 20. Well, you can't see the 20, but the 10 is the amperage, but it's location number 20. And I pulled off the cover here. It's got kind of a nice diagram, so you can see it's this one here. It says cigarette lighter. So that's the one we're gonna pull out and use for the PowerMagic Pro, which is sitting down here. Not exactly sure how the wires connect into here, but I'll show you in a second. So I'm gonna pull out the fuse number 10 or sorry, number 20. That was easy. Now what? As you probably predicted before me, the ends of these wires for the battery and for the cigarette lighter in the fuse box will not just simply connect. So I had to get these fuse taps. So I'll show you how to put that together. All right, now I got the fuse from the cigarette lighter. It was in that slot right in there. Now I'm just gonna shove that guy in there, and then I'll connect the wire to the end of this. And I'm gonna do that again for the battery. I need my hand, so I'll be back. So to connect to the battery power, I'm gonna pull out number 10, which is a 7.5 amp fuse, and it's this one right up here. All right, now we're gonna stick this end of the accessory wire into the accessory fuse tap, and then I'm gonna crimp that down on the blue part, and then do the same thing with the yellow wire for the battery to this guy that I just connected. All right, so I use my trusty wire stripping tool. I actually kind of messed up this crimp and had to cut some insulation off the wire and crimp it down again, but we're good to go. So I'm gonna tuck all these wires back up in here and then start running that power cord up and around the... All right, so we're all good here so far. Last thing I need to do is the ground wire. Not totally sure where I'm gonna put it, but that's plastic. Probably want a frame spot. All right, so I decided on this screw here. It's screwed into the metal right up there on the left there. So that's metal connected to the frame. That's where it's gonna go. So this got a little complicated. I was looking for a bare piece of metal to ground this ground wire to, and I ended up doing this screw that's underneath the hood pop latch. You can kind of see it right there. The black wire runs right down flush with that like little metal conduit. So it required me popping this guy off, which was not a big deal. Fished it through the hole. Now I'm gonna put it all back together and get this thing tidied up. All right, so obviously before I start putting this all together, I wanna make sure that it actually works. So it looks like kind of a mess here, but all the cameras are connected. Where's the little real guy? Here it is. So the car is off currently, and all the fuses are connected. The PMP is connected. So I'm gonna flip the switch to on. We got a green light. And we got lights on the camera. Let's give it a second. I don't know if you heard that, but the camera is saying initializing blah, 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 blah. So anyway, all I know is that the power is working. We're good. I'm going to disconnect this and start running the wire through the trim. All right, now I got the camera here. I'm just going to eyeball it as best I can so that I can make sure the lens is looking out from directly underneath the windshield. Something like that. Obviously I need 2 hands for this, so I'm gonna peel that adhesive off and stick it on up there. All right, got this thing right where I want it for the most part. Looks pretty good. It's kind of tucked up behind the rear view mirror there. Kind of hard to tell in the reflection here. But there she be. All right, so I want to run the power cable up along the pillar, and I'm running out of daylight here, so I might pick this up tomorrow. Anyhow, there's this sheet metal square hole that leads right down to the fuse box, or fuse panel. So I just fished it up through there, left it connected down at the PMP, and my plan is to run it up through this A-pillar, across the trim, over to the camera. And we're back. Okay. Took a day off. So I ran the power cord that's connected to the cigarette lighter connection down from the fuse box. There's the PMP. up through the inside of here. It spits out that sheet metal square, runs inside through this slot. It's kind of hard to show, and what I didn't show on the video is I took a coat hanger, bent it down so that it stuck out the hole, and then I taped the power cord to it and then pulled the coat hanger out so I didn't have to worry about fishing the wire through. So I'm gonna undo or cut my zip tie here and then run the power up through the A-pillar, across and down through this wire guide so that it connects to the camera. There's all my slack. Undo that too. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna make some room here. So this cable guide, from what I understand, just slides down like this and I guess pops out. Okay, I used 2 hands and this guy just pops right out. So the cable guide is out. Now we can run the power cable, which I just unplugged. There we go, power. And then I will run it up through here and up through the headliner. So as long as we're doing this, we might as well connect to the rear camera cable. Okay. So I got both wires kind of draped here, and I'm gonna run them both over to here where they will split, and the rear camera cable will go all the way back, and the excess for the power cable will get tucked down in the A-pillar. All right, I snapped them into place. As you can see, the wires are running cleanly from the camera up through the cable guide. Now they're at the headliner, and I think rather than trying to like tuck these both in, I'm gonna tie these together with some electrical tape so it's easier to shove up in here. All right, so I tied these 2 wires together with some electrical tape, shoved it up in the headliner. You can kind of just do it by hand, or you can use the tool that they give you in the box. So I slid the sheath back up top, looks great. All right, so we have a whole lot of excess in the power cord that's already snaked down into the fuse box. So I want the excess to live back in that notch down in here where it was when I was hiding it before I was finished. So what I'm gonna do is, I think electrical tape it to this power cord that I'm not sure what it goes to, but I don't want the slack to get in the way of the airbag at all, is what everyone else on YouTube's been saying that I've researched. So again, one-handed, not possible. So what I'm gonna do now is tape this power cord down into here and then use the zip tie to tie up the excess and just shove it down in here. I used a combination of zip ties and electrical tape, which was not my original plan, but that's okay, because it was a little tricky to get the E-tape up kind of like behind this existing bundle of wires. So a couple of zip ties, a couple spots of electrical tape, another zip tie. There's really no rhyme or reason. It's just kind of like whatever you can, you know, do feasibly. Another zip tie, and then I kind of ran it down to this cable sheath. So now I'm just gonna take the excess wire, got quite a bit here, and I'm just gonna bundle that back up kind of the way it was in the box, and then zip tie it and shove it in that hole. All right, I bundled up and zip tied the excess of the power cord. It's not particularly pretty, but I don't care because I'm not gonna see it. And I'm gonna tighten it up, snip this guy, and then, actually I think I'm just gonna leave this on here because in case I ever need to pull it out, it'd be a lot easier to like just grab that. So on that note, there. And now I'm gonna snip these, and then I will do the rear camera cord next. All right, voila, all clean and snipped up and excess shoved down in there. Oops, I missed one. Get that guy. Throw those out later. Okay, now we're good. Now, to shove this cord under the headliner, we're gonna run it to the back, and then we're gonna pop off some panels on the rear hatch. I've run the cable so far up until the B pillar and just underneath that rubber sheathing, that rubber trim. And I can't really pop this airbag cover off too easily, and honestly I don't want to mess with it or force it. So I'm just using the pry tool to kind of like give me some space, and I'm just shoving the cord in there, and then I'll kind of do the same thing on the next pillar. All right, that was easy enough. And now I'm back on the next set of trim, and I'm gonna keep shoving this in here. Again, easier two hands, so I'll come back to the next pillar. All right, same thing. Just kind of gonna pry this back a little bit and just keep shoving. Made it through the C pillar. Now I'm just gonna keep tucking the wire under the trim. All right, so I got the wire all the way through the head trim, as you can see. Can't see it. Now we're at the hatch, and first thing I'm gonna do is pop open this cable guide. I kind of already did it actually, but if you look closely on your car, probably hard to see here, there's a little arrow there, and if nothing else, I assume that meant pull here. And sure enough, that just popped off pretty easily. So I'm gonna do the same thing down here just to make my life easier. All right, so it's a little tricky here. So I popped off both sides of the cable guide going into this panel. So I still haven't figured out the routing for how this is gonna work, but I did pop off the panel here really gently with the pry tool. So just be careful when you're doing this. You wanna like break any of the male to female connectors is what it looks like. So we're just gonna kinda slide this off. There's the camera. I don't think I need to pull the whole thing off, but might be easier. All right, I'm gonna use my two hands and pop this whole guy off. All right, just took a second to pop the whole panel off. It's just kind of dangling here, but that should be plenty of room for me. So as you can see, I want the power cable to run from here to the camera, under the plastic through this sheet metal cutout, and then down through here, and then into the conduit, and then into the headliner or whatever's going on in here. I'm gonna try to use the hanger or maybe like a bicycle brake cable or something to snake down through here to tape the end of it and then pull it up through. I decided to start peeling gently back the headliner, and you can kind of see that there's that cord that's coming out of the conduit here that I want. So I think I can pull it back enough that I can slip the wire in there and then grab it. What I did was, figuring I had enough slack here that I need to pull through anyway, I shoved the connector down like the opposite way I want to go, and then I'm just gonna tape it to like some of the slack excess and then just pull it through. All right, so I just taped this guy up to itself, and I'm just gonna start pulling it through. Let's get it back in here first. Haha, success, I did it. So now it's feeding through. I'm just gonna disconnect this and then pull it all taut so we don't have a weird loop. Sweet. Now I'm just gonna pull it through. Boom. Man, that was tricky. Okay, now this is gonna go up through the conduit, through the sheet metal here, out here, to the camera, put it all back together. All right, again, I don't wanna fight City Hall here. I tried shoving this up through the conduit, but it just kinda got stuck like here. So I took an old coat hanger, the one that I used to route the electrical cord down through the A-pillar, and I'm just gonna tape it onto the end of this and just pull it through. Boom, just like that. All right, I'm gonna untape this, and hopefully I don't have to do it coming through here. I think I can just shove it through, and it'll pop out here. I'll let it sit outside the plastic so that I'll have enough slack to plug it in. Yeah, pretty easy to just shove the cord up through the sheet metal hole. Got it here, so I'm not gonna plug it in just yet. Maybe I will, what the heck. As I mentioned, I'm gonna tie up the excess, but I'm gonna put it right below the connection point so that it'll actually just sit right inside that plastic panel that I took off. A lot easier to get to than messing with the headliner. So I'm gonna zip tie this guy up, like I said already 100 times, and pop the panel back on. Actually, I'm gonna make sure the camera works first before. And then once I confirm the camera's turning on and looks good and everything, I'll put it all back together. All right, voila. I zip tied the whole bundle to this like existing bundle of wires for the door. All right, I just turned the car on just to get some full juice going. Looks like the camera is working. The lights are blinking, the record is on, the GPS is on. Now let's go look at the back camera. Something like that. So this light, it's kind of hard to see with the sun, but that light is turned on. It was not on before. So to me, it sounds like it's working. I'm gonna take the lens caps off. And the plastic doodad. Okay, I'll adjust this once I close the hatch and get a good sample video. So let's take the front one off. Okay, so this guy just slides straight off, like sideways. I was trying to peel it off. And we can take the sheathing off this guy. I'm gonna use 2 hands for that, but you get the idea. So now I'm gonna set it up on the app and put it all back together, the car that is. But the power is working, lights are on, things look good. So I would call that an install. Good luck. And one more final install swoop. Up through the headliner. Wires are routed nicely. Put that A-pillar back on, can't even tell. All clean. Got the PMP down here. I might mount this, you know, a little more nicely later on, but for now, that's where it's going. And I popped that top panel back on. Wire sticks right out. Looks nice and clean.